Ladies and gentlemen, the following is scheduled for one fall. It is time for That Way Cool Wrestling Show!
Hello everybody, welcome to That Way Cool Wrestling Show. My name is Danny J, along with Charles, Gemini, Gregory, Mad Mark Lindsay, and also filling in once again, Frankie Frizzo for a sick LeGrand Jackson. So Frankie, welcome once again, welcome into the show.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thanks for...
Yeah, that was your cue to say something into the mic. Exactly.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, how's it going?
Thank you very much.
Well, just trying to come up with some things
Thank
to say.
you very much.
Just trying to think of, for my man LeGrand, I can't get it out.
Reports are
Look
just
at you.
in.
Blah, 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 blah.
Reports are in. Wrestling
You see that? You
is
see that?
real.
You see that? He talked on the mic like Braun Strowman right there, didn't he? Go ahead.
He's about the size of his elbow. But Season 3, this is episode 2. We got a great show today. We're going to be talking about the greatest faction, arguably of all time, and that is the Four Horsemen.
I thought you were going to talk about the Crash Crew. I got nervous.
Yeah.
I got nervous. I hope the Crash Crew wasn't going to get brought up.
Damn, there you go.
See that? Boom.
Boom.
He fits right in, doesn't he? But yeah, we're going to talk about the 4 minute in, and we can't even get the topic out. We're going to be talking about the Four Horsemen today. We're going to talk about all the different versions of them, because unfortunately there were a lot of versions of the Four Horsemen. We're going to talk about the good ones, the bad ones. We're going to talk about maybe some wishful thinkings, stuff like that. Think about what we did as fans, and I really wish this guy was a horseman. I really wish this guy wasn't, that type of thing. And we're going to talk about what made them so great. Now, obviously, the Four Horsemen original lineup was Ole and Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard. Everybody knows the story. They brought them out for TV time together because their interview times were back to back, and they said, just let's bring them out together, one big shot, get the interview done. And I believe it was Arn Anderson.
Either Arn Anderson or Tony Schiavone. I hear conflicting reports.
I think it was Arn Anderson, though,
Schiavone,
who said, what you're looking at here are the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse of professional wrestling. I think that was Arn Anderson. But Tony Schiavone will say, and I do remember hearing it on his podcast, that he said this...
Yeah, you have something there.
You have something there.
Yeah, maybe that's how
I think that's what it was. And Tony Schiavone takes that credit, and I can give it to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. So good for you. But they were such a dominant force when they came out, because at that time you had Tully Blanchard and Baby Doll. You had Arn Anderson, who was just coming in with Ole Anderson, and the new emergence of the Minnesota Wrecking Crew at that time, and obviously Ric Flair, who at that time had the big gold belt. So
the great belt.
It was just such
the best belt.
The best belt, completely. And it was just such an array. And remember, we always said this: Jim Crockett Promotions really did it right, because they weren't going for kids; they were going for men, 18 to 35 or something.
I'd say 15 to 35.
Yeah. Well, whatever the demographic is, but it was an adult format, and it was like every one of us here is the best at what we do. Mm-hmm. You have the national heavyweight champion, you have the world heavyweight champion, you have the national tag team champions. You can remember they were the national tag champions at that time. They had that title, which later I think went back into being the United States Tag Titles. Yeah, because they had U.S. tag champions before, and they did. They were silver belts, but they weren't. But the Andersons didn't hold them. There were U.S. tag belts. And Mark, you could probably look this up. I think Billy Jack Haynes and somebody were U.S. tag champs.
I think you're confusing that with Georgia.
So.
Yeah,
Georgia
either way,
Championship Wrestling, but something like that. But they were just such a collection of guys, and nobody really knew when that interview happened what was being born at that point. I mean, granted, you had Flair and stuff like that, but here's the deal, and we've always said this, with the faction and with the Horsemen as a faction, those individuals never lost their individuality in that faction. Ric Flair is Ric Flair, that's why he's a Horseman. Arn and Ole are who they are, that's why they're Horsemen. You know what I mean? And we'll get into this, because later on when they started like branding members, you know, and like they had like the little 4-H on their tights and stuff like that. It kind of lost a lot of it because it kind of like took away from their spot. And not to use that stupid terminology that's been joked about.
You're saying it
like
is more or less they all individuals, but they were a cohesive unit.
Cohesive unit.
When need, that's what they always had each other's back.
They all had Dusty Rhodes as an opponent.
As opponent.
Yes. We're all going to work Big Dust, so might as well
And you know
travel
what?
together.
And a lot of people can't. He did a lot for them, man.
Of course he did.
He
Well,
did so
he was a
much.
booker too for
He was-
the NWA
yeah.
back at the time, and for Crockett.
He did a lot for them, man.
Yes. Yes.
You know, remember the one they
And
jumped
he's
him in
also
the-
one of the reasons why Tully and Arn left. I mean,
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, Dusty Rhodes' ending tenure in NWA when he wanted Rick Steiner to win the world title from Ric Flair in under 5 minutes, kind of just was the straw that broke the camel's back, especially under new ownership of Turner Broadcasting. So.
Right. Well, you know.
But there were many,
Spaghetti at the wall.
Arn and Ole, the Arn, Ole, Blanchard and Flair version of the Horsemen, the original Horsemen,
Yes.
did not last as long as the other Horsemen.
And that's
factions.
because Ole was on his way out.
Ole was on his way out. He
Ole
was
was
semi-retired.
lovely. Yeah.
They brought in Luger. Luger
Yeah.
took over the spot, won the U.S. title, and then Luger had the infamous bunkhouse battle royal where
Yes.
he threw out J.J. Dillon, and he became a face. And then there were only 3 Horsemen for a few months. And just looking back, now we're in 2018. Looking back in 1988,
Right.
one of the things I loved about the Horsemen is that they were all heels, but they weren't pussy heels. They weren't like, oh my God. They were going.
They didn't run from a fight.
I'm going to go out there and we're going to make you bleed. We're going to hurt you.
No.
We
You
may
can
not
say
win, but
that
we're going to
just
hurt you.
about everybody in JCP.
Well, that's true.
They
So, yeah,
booked
going
it
back.
in that fashion. There really wasn't, because the sports entertainment, and granted,
The
you
heel
consider-
runs away.
Right.
You can
It's
say
kinda
sports
bullshit.
entertainment's been around
Yeah.
for a long time.
But
It
I
won't-
remember,
it was a
I'm
phrase.
11 years old at this time, and I had just been turned on to Crockett in around maybe mid '87.
Right.
So it's like February of '88, I think. And don't quote me here, but I remember an interview on Saturday Night TBS where Tony Schiavone asked J.J. Dillon, "Do you have an idea of who your 4th Horseman's going to be?" This is February,
Yeah.
and he goes, "Barry Windham. We're scouting Barry Windham." And I'm like, Barry Windham's a good. Barry Windham just wrestled Ric Flair to a 1-hour draw. What, he's not going to turn, you know.
Right.
And you remember watching this, and then four months later, it was just foreshadowing. You know, it was things were
I
so
remember
different.
that.
I mean,
wait a minute.
you-
He's saying
yeah.
that. I remember the
Yeah.
interview because they said, "Well, how would you get him?" He goes, "I will give him an offer he can't refuse."
Right.
And it wasn't they were jumping him.
Yeah.
He, remember?
Right.
He gave him an offer.
I remember,
They knew what it was.
and
You know.
boom,
And then
they
they
dropped the
said
tag
one-
titles for that.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
And he
That's
said
right.
one day Luger's not going to be there for you when you need him the most.
Most.
Luger won't be there, and sure
And he
enough,
created dissension.
the
in the ranks,
right,
yes.
and it was just brilliant storytelling that didn't happen over 4 weeks. It happened
No.
over 4 months.
That was the difference back then. Everything went for a month. Now,
You
nowadays,
know, the cool thing was
it goes pay-per-view for pay-per-view.
Like J.J. Dillon, J.J. Dillon
It's too soon.
was a J.J. Dillon was a what's the name? He wasn't a hateable heel manager either. When you think about it, like
He was confident.
He was a like and he was comical. But you take Jim Cornette.
But
You know what I mean? Like Jim Cornette, you're like, oh, that guy. J.J. Dillon was a businessman, and he was just like, this is just what it is, and it was
You
just
said
very
that,
matter
but
of fact.
he
a lawyer.
was an early stage Paul Heyman.
Yes.
He was a very early stage Paul Heyman.
yes.
He worked it. Yes, he did.
Or Paul Heyman was a
early stage. No,
or a late stage.
whatever you want to say. Whatever you want to say. But yeah. You can say it that way.
Yeah.
But that's how he took it, and he ran with it, dude. He ran with it.
He was a perfect match to the Horsemen.
Perfect match.
He really was. Like and we'll get into it. But like, remember when they brought in Hiro Matsuda
Right.
and he bought the Horsemen or something.
Hiro
like that?
Matsuda was just a great trainer, a great name in Florida. He could not speak English to save his
Didn't
life.
know. I didn't like that whole
It was stupid.
like.
Was it Yamagachi Corporation?
Yeah.
It was in? It was going to be him, Butch Reed, Michael Hayes, Kendall Windham, Barry Windham. I think Muda was eventually going to be brought in to be
Yeah.
part of that group. They were going to have this big corporation that I think would have been pretty decent, but
But then they
just
went
never-
with Gary Hart and they had J-Tex. Corporation.
Well, that was
Remember
late
Damn, I
89.
forgot all
That
about
was
that.
late
Yeah.
89. That was a whole.
Dude,
we're talking
you are smart, Mark.
February to.
Until you said that, I thought, ooh.
I'm not Mark. I just don't.
No,
advertise it.
no. Yeah, that's true.
I
Mark's a
don't-
very knowledgeable
I'm
man.
very.
I forgot all about
I'm like a
that. When you
computer.
said it, I was like this. Oh, wow.
But they had a lot of good things, and
Damn.
we really fast forwarded in what you were
course.
saying. But like when you go into that, and you fast forward, we get Luger in there, which Luger it brought a little bit of youth back into the Horsemen
Yeah.
a little bit because Ole was on his way out.
But he was the muscle man.
Right.
Right.
When Luger came in, he was the muscle man.
He was also very green. He came off of a run in Florida.
Yeah,
against
but he-
that
Yeah.
infamous Bruiser Brody cage match.
He was at his best with his body.
And
Right.
and
Yeah.
here's the deal: he was at his best of his body,
And he
and
had
we
the
had
look.
just lost Rick
did have the
Rude
look.
Yeah.
to the WWF.
That's right.
And Rick Rude, up until that point, was the hard body
Mm-hmm.
in Mid South or in Mid Atlantic wrestling. You know,
World
that's
class and then NWA.
right? And in that territory. So up until then, Rick Rude was like, oh my God, I've never seen a guy like Rick Rude. This guy is like amazing how he's built, blah blah blah, like an Adonis. And then all of a sudden, Luger comes in. You're like, holy shit, look at this guy. No, and when you think about it, realistically, the only guy that really matched him body to body was Hawk of the Road Warriors.
Yeah,
but
they had
Hawk
some-
wasn't as tight body fat wise probably as Luger.
1986 had some great vitamins.
They did.
Yeah, superstar Billy Graham.
Man.
Yes.
Stepped off the curb, broke his ankle.
Yes.
So
Yes. But Luger comes in. Yeah, Luger comes in and he's a prospect, and he matched as a Horseman. I mean, as short as a Horseman run as that was, it's one of those things where you sit there and say, well, do I like Lex? Because a lot of people are on the fence with Luger, period.
yeah.
I either like him or you don't like him. There was no really in between. And I honestly, when I look back and say, yeah, I liked Luger. I liked Luger throughout his entire career. I never not liked Luger.
I
Yeah, I'm
know.
with you.
Wait a minute. Hold on. At one point, I hated that Lex Express.
Well, okay.
Well, that was-
that
Okay.
was not.
Y'all
not
said
the
no.
return of
Y'all
Luger.
said.
Well, the
y'all said-
narcissist.
He said that he liked Luger. I hated the Lex
He
Express.
built a delivery bell. What's up to the
I
That was
hated
but
that.
that was a WWE thing.
I hated that.
He's opposed in the mirror.
It doesn't matter.
Oh, the narcissist?
I like the narcissist better than
Yeah,
that.
that was great when he pulled out the full length mirror. He got in. He was in there like this. But yeah, you bring Lex Luger in, and then he does that and they did that turn for a reason, wasn't there? There was a reason why Luger had to jump into that face spot.
Ironically, Barry Windham said,
Yeah.
"You do not want anything to do with these guys.
Yes.
Stay away from Flair."
well,
That's
we're
right.
talking
And Luger's
kayfabe,
like-
but I'm saying behind the scenes.
That's well, yeah. I guess you're right.
No, behind the
They may
scenes,
have
there was.
Well, I think they
forget
were
what it
trying
was.
to groom. They were trying to groom Luger because Luger was very green. He had the look. He didn't have the talent. So they were hoping that by hanging around Flair and Anderson and Blanchard, that he was
But
going to get
wasn't that was after Garvin's run as
No.
right?
No,
it was
before. That's before.
because
But that was after it was
That was
after
Bro.
was that after Magnum TA though?
after Magnum,
Magnum.
before
Wasn't it
Yeah.
though? But wasn't it though? They said we needed. They wanted to put Luger in that Magnum spot originally, and it just didn't go over.
no, they wanted to put Barry Windham in that Magnum
Original,
spot,
yeah.
and they put Windham in
But
that.
there's I forget, and fans, I'm
Or
sorry
Nikita.
because I read that and I was watching an interview with something, and there was a reason why Luger was picked for that run, that face turn to go against Flair, and apparently it did not, based on his working ability, it didn't go over as well as they wanted to because it was the big match in Baltimore for Luger versus Flair for the world title.
No, that match went exactly as it was supposed to go. The dusty booking or the
Yeah.
dusty finish of the bleeding and the Maryland State Athletic Commission
Yeah.
did not get over with the fans, and that's
Yeah.
those dusty finishes. I mean, if not to get off track, kind of is what caused Crockett Promotions to lose a lot of their talent because.
Right.
Starrcade '87, you had the Road Warriors beat Tully and Arn for the titles in Chicago,
Yes.
and then they disqualified. The titles were handed
Which
to the
that's
Warriors.
on. I just put that match on That Way Cool Wrestling show
Oh, yeah?
on Facebook. Yeah.
What a coincidence. So, they overturned the decision, and that was the beginning of the end.
And they
because-
walked out with the belts.
Well, they walked out with a belt. But like you had the Horsemen. They
That was
had-
an over the top rope
yeah, right, yeah.
because Tommy Young was outside.
Yeah, which,
Yes, yes.
if you watch the replay, Tommy Young did not see it.
He did
but
not see it at all, no.
But he knew it was going to happen somehow.
He did.
Earl Hebner, who a few months later would be part of that Hogan-Andre match.
Right.
But the Horsemen were a big deal because that was a card that Lex Luger lost the U.S. title.
Yes.
And that started to turn because the Horsemen were like, hey, we all have our titles except for you.
Yeah, remember?
Ric Flair won the title back. Tully and I retained, and Lex lost his. And that was the beginning of the dissension. And you saw it on interviews following where Luger would just be shunned by the other guys, and then it started to build up.
You're right. Remember they would sit there with the belts in the front. He'd be standing in the back.
Yeah.
And they kept shining.
Yeah, and then Luger would try to talk, and they would keep cutting him off.
Yeah, Arn Anderson. Remember he said, "Well, you're not." No, the one he said, we don't have time for you right now." Like something like that. I'll never forget that. I was like, "Damn."
Yeah, and then in January, the Bunkhouse Stampede series started happening, and JJ won the win.
JJ won the win.
So Arn and Tully eliminated themselves, and then Luger wouldn't do it. Which, if you think about it, that's the heel move, right?
Yeah.
If you're the face, you're gonna throw him out. You're not gonna say no. I don't want to do it.
Right.
It's crazy.
I missed the Bunkhouse Stampede. That was a good.
That was
one.
I have a question.
Idea.
I have a question. Is Frankie still here?
Oh, geez.
Oh, there he goes. Oh.
Talking about 88.
See,
You weren't even born yet.
No, I was just hanging on my dad's chest hair. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Jeez, I was in my second year of college. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't that old. But I'm younger than you, though.
I was.
Yeah, I know you were. But what's the name?
Man, get off me.
But no, you fast forward a little bit, and Luger gets taken out, and they build up to a great match.
I turned it off.
That's second time, man.
Well, I'll tell you, man, you don't take
I
instructions.
thought I turned it off.
It's a violation.
So this guy's got 12 phones on him. You know that?
Well,
Like
But back to the Horsemen.
yeah. Thank you,
LeGrand Frizzo. LeGrand Frizzo, that's your name now. But what's the name? But no, you bring you have the big. It was a big deal, that match in Baltimore for Luger and Flair, and it doesn't. And Flair retains, and you later have the first Clash of the Champions, which ran against.
That was before Baltimore. I think you're a little out of line. Clash of the Champions was March of '88. The Bash was July of '88.
Right, but the Clash of Champions is where maybe I am fast forwarding because the Wyndham and Luger won the tag titles at the Clash.
And then the following month, April, at the house show, they
drop it, and that's where the heel turn for Wyndham is. And you have that's when the Midnight Rider runs into the locker room and forgets himself and says, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What's wrong with you?" Blah, blah. And then they had that big thing
where they unmasked him, and then they had to put the towel over it, and Sting and whoever.
And
else.
what a great thing that was, because just to fast forward into that, they go into a match where Wyndham wins the U.S. title.
Yeah, beats Nikita Koloff in a tournament in Houston, Texas.
Right.
Which was the last Paul Bosch major event in Houston.
Right. He wins the U.S. title, goes to wrestle the Midnight Rider, unmasks him, and it's Blackjack Mulligan, his father. How awesome of a turn was that? I thought that was great. Anyway, you're looking at me like I'm romantic or something.
Yeah.
What was that about?
No,
because you say that.
You're locked eyes with me.
No,
like,
no,
take me back to the good old days.
No, but seriously, when you say that, I'm sitting there thinking,
Yeah.
dude, that was a great storyline.
That was a great storyline. I mean, that
I
was
wish
so
they had
awesome.
shit like that nowadays, because some of this stuff is so predictable.
Yeah, bring back the Midnight Rider.
You can't. He's 6 feet under, unfortunately.
I know.
Still be over.
And it'll still be over. I know, right? We get the yellow dog. Everybody can be a yellow dog. You know.
Unfortunately, they're both gone too.
But, yeah.
Zank, Wyndham's still here. Zank and Pillman, who played Yellow Dog in '91.
That's why Zink didn't he just pass?
He just passed away. Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah, young man too.
It's like you guys are saying, they don't have that no more. They don't have four guys that can talk trash, jump you, beat you up, and they don't have a heel that could do that.
You could put it together if you
they
wanted.
could have been.
There are
right
key
now,
people. We could put it together, but they're not putting it together.
No, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
You know the closest thing when you come to something like that, and I don't like the way they book is the way they book Miz.
Yeah, Miz is
Right.
definitely in the
Miz
Flair
is the
role.
I was
greatest-
waiting for you guys to bring that up.
Miz is the man.
But here's where I'm going to agree with Dan, because this is a shock. Dan opened up this show by saying that the Four Horsemen individually had they were individual wrestlers with the same mission or the same.
Yeah, they
Okay.
complement each other. They didn't lose their individuality.
So we all have been praising Miz's work as of late. I think he's one of the better heels right now in wrestling.
right.
The Miz Tarad, you have two third-generation wrestlers in Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, who in recent weeks are fighting with each other over their admiration for the Miz. If they had just been Bo Dallas inspired by Miz, Curtis Axel inspired by Miz, and their own men, but as part of a group, great.
No, that's
but
wrong.
when they start fighting
Axel,
over their attention for the Miz, you're taking attention off of those guys and putting it on the Miz.
You're saying that Bo Dallas could do it, Axel couldn't do it.
Right.
Well,
so
the
important.
bottom line is though the Horsemen gimmick, the Horseman faction, could not survive in the WWE because the WWE would never do it justice.
No.
Honestly,
They tried
because it's a man's gimmick. It's not a child gimmick.
They tried. I think WWE tried with Evolution.
With Evolution.
They tried
Close.
with Evolution.
They were close.
But Evolution wasn't shit without Flair.
Right.
Right.
Evolution kept going back. Well, everyone knows they were trying to copy out the Horsemen.
Right.
We all know.
Triple H
Right?
was marking out.
Triple H, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was. I do understand that. I really do understand that.
Yeah.
But it was something missing. You had too many. See, when you had the Four Horsemen, the ego thing was out of it.
Right.
Like you said, no one ran. Nowadays, I hate that when a guy runs. When you're supposed to be a wrestler or fighter, you growing up fighting. Hell with that running. If I'll get my ass beat, you lay me out, okay?
Right.
You know who did that a lot? And I didn't like him at first when Sami Zayn was taking a lot of ass whoopings.
Right.
I kind of like him and Owens together. I really do. I think it's funny. But what I'm saying is, nowadays they don't do that. The Four Horsemen was something. When you went in and you see, like, everyone says Hulk Hogan this, Hulk Hogan that. No. You can say Hulk Hogan. Mention the Four Horsemen. What does everyone do? Everybody goes like this, you know. They throw it up.
Yeah.
They throw up the Four Horsemen, you know. And
honestly, arguably, and we're going to go to break in a second. But arguably,
he can wait.
But arguably, you look at your NFL, look at basketball, look at all these different athletes. What do? They carried a big gold belt.
Yep.
They woo like Flair, and they walk around with their four fingers up.
Yes, they do.
You know, they ain't walking around ripping shirts off and flexing 24-inch pythons or any of that bullshit.
Yeah, we're 22 and a half, but
yeah. But they wear the big gold belt and they woo and they hold.
And it's like you said, like every one of Flair's rivalries was special. Everyone was special. You could just sit there and watch him work Sting
50 times
over and over.
It'd be a different match,
right? And not get bored. And like it's just incredible. And like I mean, don't get me wrong, Hogan had his share, but
it was always the same ending.
It's the same ending. The light drops coming. I mean, Flair. I don't know. I like Flair. I think just Flair.
Well, we're gonna go for a break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about. We're going to fast forward a little bit. We're going to go into some of the other versions of the Horsemen, and we're also going to get into who we thought might have been a good Horseman. So get that in your mind as well. We've kind of touched on that on other shows before, but we're going to really get into it right now. We're in Canon Entertainment Studios. We're going to be back right after this.
Since 1974, Canon Entertainment has been serving the tri-state area, providing professional musical entertainment to thousands of our customers. Canon Entertainment doesn't just play music, we are professional musical entertainers. We have personality, talent, and each DJ has a minimum of 7 years experience. We are especially trained for events like the one you're planning. We will customize your event to make it everything you want, and we'll give you our many years of experience to make it even more. Don't gamble with your affair. Be sure to choose the best. Canon Entertainment. Check us out on the web at canonentertainment.com. Call us now.
That's right. You want to call them at 610-449-8908. Book your event or private party today. Canon Entertainment, been around since 1974. They're going to take care of you. We're here in the Canon Entertainment Studios.
I want to cut you off, but I think Frizzle's getting a text from Monique. He's probably in trouble. But go ahead.
He's going to get suplexed hard.
She said, welcome to marriage. Suplex
Mo,
City.
I love you. That's why I keep messing with you.
So,
I ain't scared of you, though.
Yeah,
I'm just telling you, I ain't scared. I got boys, you get jumped.
That
go ahead.
Way Cool Wrestling Show. We're talking about the Four Horsemen today.
Both sides. Both sides.
We've talked about the original. We talked about with Barry Windham's turn going into it with, turning on Luger and all. After the move to WWE with the then branded Brainbusters, your Horsemen break up for a little while. You fast forward about roughly, what was it, a year?
Yeah, it was December '89.
Yeah.
When this is horrible. Tully and Arn were going to come back.
Yes.
They get guaranteed contracts from Jim Herd for $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
Tully does cocaine with Hogan, Savage, Zeus, anybody else in '89 WWF.
Yes.
But none of those guys got fired. Tully gets fired because he had the shit attitude on his way out that he was going back for double the pay, etc. Vince gives him a drug test. He fails miserably and refuses the job to the Ultimate Warrior on the way out. So Tully's just, he's burning bridges left and right.
Yes.
So much so that when Arn Anderson comes in '89 to be back with the Horsemen, Jim Herd rescinds the offer of $500,000 for half. Or no, it may have been $250 and they whatever. He lost half of the salary. Yeah, $250 each. $120. So Arn takes a pay cut with something he didn't even have any control over.
Do with, right.
But the Horsemen were going to be Tully, Arn, Ole, Flair, possibly Sting until they kicked him out.
Right.
So that would have been that's one of my favorite what if stories to go back on. That entire Starrcade '89 era where they put the stupid tournament and Tully couldn't come back in. That's the one part of wrestling that I wish what if.
And I'll tell you, and you lead into a great thing, because what happened was, had that happened, and they brought, Wyndham was still there, right? Or not?
No, Wyndham was the Fed. No. He came back, I think, March.
Yeah, he came back after, that's right. Had they worked it out the way it should have been, we would have had a much different set of wrestling for the next couple of years. It really would have been a lot different. A lot of people will blame the individual when really it's the booking and the thing of it. So to collaborate on what you're saying there, they move forward with the Four Horsemen reunion, and they bring in a fresh off a push from the WWF, Paul Roma.
We're talking 4 years later, dude. Let's go back and talk about '90. When you bring back Arn and Barry Windham, you have you have Sid. You have Sid fresh off of his lung issue.
Sid,
who
as an individual,
he was a perfect fit.
But he was a horrible horseman.
He was not a good horseman because he wasn't that talented. He was in the process of getting talented. He was. I mean, he made a
you know what the difference was too?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If you had someone, doesn't matter what era, I know I'm kind of getting off topic, but I don't care because I always do and y'all get mad. Who would you have put in there from now to then? Who do you think would have been a perfect horseman?
Well, I was going to get into that. You want to bring that up now?
That's coming up. You want to do that now?
All right, he wants to bring it up now. I was going to save it for later, but I know you always said, and I thought about that because I said when I talked about this topic, this is one of the sections I want to get into. I know Mark wants to go with Paul Orndorff. Frankie, if you had pick a person to go into that horseman slot.
I mean, you're going present to then.
Yeah.
Wow,
Let's try and stay then though.
Yeah, don't say Vinny Hoffa. Come on.
I was going to go further, but never mind.
Because he went with Paul Orndorff because Paul Orndorff was actively wrestling around that time.
I think I have the perfect person. But
I do too, but yeah.
Okay. Oh, was that a little hint there? A perfect person?
Yeah, John. I need to think.
No, because he actually was a horseman.
I think one of the perfect people that you ever could was Brian Pillman. I think
Brian was a horseman, though.
No, he wasn't.
He was.
No, he wasn't.
Brian Pillman
for
was
a month.
He was.
For like a year. Well, until he got fired.
Until he got fired. And he went to WWE, yes.
From September '95.
And he was horrible
October, I'm sorry, Halloween Havoc '85 or not '95.
Because he went and became like a screwball.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
the horseman. I'll tell you. And here's the deal. And when I tell you, and before you even say, I'm sorry, before you say who you want, understand that the horseman. The reason why the horseman worked were because, and we said this many, many times, these were individuals who were the best at what they do. And you just hate them because you're jealous, right? So there's a pompous scenario with a horseman. Flair, pompous. Arn and Tully, pompous.
All right, screw that.
Okay?
I'm going with Ziggler like always. Look, I do that getting
payday. But like you say, Orndorff was someone who was pompous, wore the robes, stuff like that. When Pillman was a thing, I'm a wild, crazy guy, but it's stupid, dumb. Sid, big man, the kind of match what they did with Luger, but Sid was like, shut up.
Yeah, right.
You're not refined. And that's why you're not a good horseman, okay? So, I'm sorry, Frankie, who were you going to go with?
Well, if he would have kept his head on straight, and he was a little bit of a whack job. I met him personally. I would go with Buff Bagwell. if you would have kept him, he has that clean, pretty boy look. But
I see what you're saying. I see what you're doing. It's hard to see Buff because Buff was a tag team specialist.
Right, and he had the body. I mean, like I said, he was a little bit of a whack job, but I think he's still
Buff. If you turn down the Buff everybody thinks of Buff versus Marcus. That's the thing. You're saying Marcus Bagwell really more so than Buff Bagwell.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I could see a Marcus Bagwell
in like a student role.
Yeah,
right.
Or give the maturity level of a Buff Bagwell, but still have him be Marcus Bagwell. You understand what I'm saying? Like, don't go with this Buff Bagwell gimmick. But by the time
I'm a rookie,
by the time Buff was Buff, he was
established.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. What do you think? Make it good. Your job depends on it.
Something about dancing over
that
there.
Wawa hooky depends on it.
If you're gonna go nowadays, I'm going with two people.
You can go with two people. Go ahead.
I go with two people.
Yeah, go ahead.
The more and more I think about it, if you go by toughness and individuality, you had Samoa Joe.
Oh yeah.
Really?
I think he would be. Even when you dress him up,
he's a loner.
No, when you dress him up with the suit, he can play. He can get away with it.
He did that thing with you're talking about in TNA.
Yeah.
Yeah, when TNA was good, Dan.
But understand, he could get away with something like that.
I don't own the fucking company.
I'm taking that on you because you're here. I don't know Ed Newhome.
I get no money from you. But go ahead. All right, so Joe, and then what's your second?
I'll go with Joe.
Kwame Brown.
Shut up, man. Then I'm thinking if you were to go back a ways.
Yeah,
let's go back.
I mean, can you build the talent and like work with it?
Yeah, whatever.
Y'all gonna laugh at me though, because he had the look. He just had to clean him up.
Okay.
Brooklyn Brawler. Put a suit on him.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. You think wrestling's about... Y'all all think all this shit... Wait a minute. The reason I'm saying all this shit y'all talk about wrestling, I look at an individual. He was big, ugly. You put a suit on him, clean it up. He could always talk.
Oh, yeah, he could.
He could talk on the mic.
Yes, he
See,
did.
I'm not arguing that point, but see, when Dan asked this question, I think he's looking for answers... No offense, like Orndorff, like Terry Taylor. Okay? He's not looking for jobbers.
I love Terry. Listen, I love Terry Taylor.
Okay?
I love Terry Taylor.
Mike Rotundo. I mean, they're talented.
But he was already.
If you're going to say Brooklyn Brawler, then you made
Steve Lombardi.
Paul Roma was a great horseman.
He was a great horseman.
Paul Roma sucks.
He's a Hall of Fame.
All right, now here's mine, and it's going to be really out there. Well, not really out there, but when you say it, you're going to be like, holy shit, wow, Al Perez.
Okay. But again, he didn't have the name recognition nationally.
The question was,
he had the world-class Texas name.
Yeah, and I
was
think
Tommy Rich? Was Tommy Rich ever?
No.
I like Tommy Rich.
I think Tommy Rich is a good.
Tommy Rich had too many jelly donuts.
I like back. Come on, man.
Because when he was in the York Foundation,
like
when he was in the York Foundation, though, I didn't like him as a heel. I liked him better as a face. I think he was a better chaser, like to fight the Horsemen or something like that. But Al Perez, you take Al Perez coming in from world class.
Mm-hmm.
And USWA, I think, and whatever, and he was with Gary Hart.
Larry Zbyszko. I mean, they had, and then Ron Garvin.
And Ron Garvin put in there. Yeah, I know. That was the J-Tex Corporation, is what that was.
No, J-Tex was Buzz Sawyer, Dragon Master.
Oh, I'm going back to world class. Yeah, that was still Gary Hart, though, right?
Yeah, it was still Gary Hart. Yeah, you got that right.
I mean, if you want to get serious,
and then
Alberto Del Rio would have been great, but let's be honest.
But but Al Perez carried himself, and he was his move was a spinning toe hold. Very basic move. He did the alley-copter, obviously. But I love that. And everybody does that now. But he did the spinning toe hold. But Al Perez carried himself like a horseman. I think he really honestly did.
Absolutely.
And had it...
Wait, but you're trying to tell me he did. You're going to tell me Samoa Joe...
Over Steve Lombardi?
You're going to tell me Samoa Joe doesn't carry himself like a horseman?
No.
Why do you say that?
Samoa Joe...
He's a loner.
But why do you say that? When he comes down, the confidence, the look...
Samoa Joe reminds me of Ole Anderson. But Ole Anderson, I didn't like as a horseman.
You had to like Ole as a horseman.
He was the first one.
He was the horseman.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't agree with that. I didn't like Ole Anderson.
I didn't like Ole. When they replaced him and Wyndham came in, I think
Ole Anderson back then was the old. I'm not going to say the old knowledge. It was.
No, he was.
He was the older one in the crew.
The wisdom
that kept these guys' heads when they kind of went out. I'm sorry. You can say what you want. Ole Anderson will always be one of the greatest horsemen.
It's a shame that he wasn't recognized, not for nothing.
I'm going to try and answer this seriously, not trying to be funny, okay? This is why I don't see Samoa Joe as a horseman.
Okay.
Barry Windham, Lex Luger, they all protected Ric Flair as a world champion. Yeah. Okay? I see Samoa Joe, and this is a backwards credit to the booking of the WWE and NXT and TNA.
Yeah.
I don't see Samoa Joe as I'm gonna protect my man over here as a world champion.
No, because they will put some kind of belt on him.
I want him to be the world champion.
They will put another belt on him. Absolutely.
I understand that. I don't see him having that team. Like, I see him doing tag teams occasionally, but not because he's like, we're tight, but because you and I both have the same enemy. I don't see it being long term. I don't see that. Samoa Joe.
Joe is for Joe.
Right.
Is
Joe
what
is
you're
for
saying.
Joe.
That's
exactly.
what you're saying. And I see that. That's exactly what I see. They you know, and I don't see, and he's not refined. Like, and Ole wasn't refined. You know what I mean? That's why I didn't like him as a horseman. Not to say Wyndham was refined, but Wyndham had a stature. Wyndham, pound for pound, honestly, is like he was my favorite wrestler. When
Wyndham
I look back,
Wyndham was, you know, and depending on who you hear, Wyndham was supposed to get the NWA title in '89. They were grooming him for, and then Steamboat came in, Funk came in, and Wyndham had that hand surgery, and then he just kind of quietly screwed over Jim Herd. They were grooming Wyndham for a world title run in '89, and I think he would have been a great world champion.
It's a shame because when he did get his world title,
it was '93, and it was in Flair's shadow.
Yeah,
he won the title at Super Brawl 3 against Muta. Flair comes in to try and wrap it around his waist, and Wyndham wants nothing to do with it. He becomes the lone wolf, Barry Windham, and that would have been all like right there.
That would have been great.
That would have Anderson, Flair. You know what, Paul?
Had he
Roma
been the world title in the spotlight,
Paul Roma as a horseman sucked.
I'm not going to defend Paul Roma in the Horsemen,
but that's not Paul Roma's problem, because Paul Roma was a solid worker, and when he became pretty wonderful with Paul Orndorff, he was great. I like them.
And if you bring in Arn, Flair, Wyndham, think about February Super Brawl '93, okay, Super Brawl '93 time, as heels versus because they brought in Flair, everyone cheered him, so they made him a face.
Right.
If he was a heel and Anderson turned heel, well, Anderson was heel, dude, I would have accepted Paul Roma easier as a heel, fresh off of his Power and Glory run, than I would have as a face.
Right. I
think it would have been different.
And I was just thinking about this as he was talking, that the people you were mentioning, you were saying, well, you don't see them as a horseman like Joe, and you said Brooklyn Brawler, Steve Lombardi. What you described were people in like Paul Jones's army.
Right.
To me.
Yeah.
Because Paul Jones's army were all like these like wild roughneck.
Yeah, the Barbarian,
you know what I'm saying?
Koloff,
guys that were like, we're in a bar, and I'm going to smoke this cigar, and I'm going to beat you up with this stick out back, and I'm going to
see, to me, that's the difference between when we talk about wrestling. That was my era.
Well, that was our era too. They were all
even like when we used to do our shows. That was what I was trying to. You bring it back to, remember we used to jump to people in the parking lot, stuff like that.
I remember.
That's
like I wouldn't make Baron von Raschke a horseman. You know what I mean? Like it was the same time.
It would have been horrible.
The claw, the four-finger claw, like something like that. But now we're gonna fast.
I pinned Mark with a reverse claw. He had it on me, and I reversed his own claw. But
and then Mark wouldn't let it go for 3 days.
He couldn't let it go for
3 days. He had to go to the emergency room. They said, "Sir, just let go." You fast forward.
I'm selling it.
That time frame, though, when they brought in Paul Roma, and once again, that was the beginning of the end of the Horsemen. Literally, it really was.
Right.
Because what they did with Paul Roma, and once again, it wasn't Paul Roma's fault. He was not a horseman.
No.
But he was a solid worker. And he was a lot cleaner, and he was groomed to look like a horseman, but he wasn't a horseman's stature. You know what I mean? Up until that point, these guys were the best in the business. What did Paul Roma do in the business as far as a fan was concerned?
But the problem is with that, you're saying groomed. The groom one in the Horseman with me was Ric Flair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everyone else was kind of like...
Well, Blanchard.
You had the Brawler. No, but even Blanchard, Tully Blanchard was groomed, but he was a hard ass. You know what I mean?
He was more of a hard ass than Flair.
Yeah, he was like that one. Okay, Flair was the Blanchard would walk up to you and punch in the face for no reason, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Everyone had their role. Right. Like you had Arn, who was just a straight enforcer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Arn, he could win without a belt. He just go put you through the mat, and everyone would stay away from him because they were scared of him. That type of thing. Ole was, like I say, he was the big man back
now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to run through the list, the never-ending list of horsemen that came through, and we...
what do you say, like or not? How's that? Just or no?
Yeah, you're
there you go.
Yeah,
nay?
you're nay.
Yeah, you're nay. Okay. So now you got, let's start, we got Paul Roma.
So we're starting the 93?
Well, we can start. I want to start. No,
Would you
start
stop
with
throwing
Sid.
out dates? Just let him say it. Shut
My
up.
man's got it.
You're making him
That's
sound
some
all
great
over.
knowledge right there.
We're going to start with. I know it's sick.
It's like a encyclopedia now.
That's why he's on the show. We'll start with Sid.
I thought it was for my looks.
We'll start with Sid.
Encyclopedia of Mark Fatica.
Wow.
We'll start with
I'm
Sid.
sorry, that was
Start
good.
with Sid. I
You
say
know what?
nay to
If
Sid.
I stand behind you, Charles, I don't know if you're going to see me or not. So.
I'll start with Sid. I'm going to say, and I'm saying them as I remembered them.
Okay, he's going to save us. You remember him. Let's go.
I don't want to get corrected. Well, that wasn't the. That was the.
Yeah, no.
So then
That
what
was
you're saying-
Thursday.
So what you're saying is I should take over. Okay, so Paul Roma.
No, we're gonna start Sid.
We'll start with Sid.
Sid. Okay.
I say nay.
I say nay.
Yay.
Nay.
You like him? Okay.
I thought it was all right. I thought the timing may have been off, but I think.
I don't think as a horseman, I don't like him.
Okay, next.
Okay.
So
So
now.
we have 91. Okay, so 91,
Would he
they
shut
break
up?
apart.
Shut up. I'm just gonna
Flair
say them.
leaves.
So we got
You
Roma.
say names.
So Roma, I say nay.
I say
Nay.
nay.
And here's the thing about now where we're getting into from the Roma era. I'm going to say the Roma era. He was branded.
Yeah.
He was the only one of
That wore the
anybody who was in a
four, yeah.
horseman that had a 4 horseman symbol on his tights.
Right.
Nobody else wore that.
Paul Roma was nothing but a jacked up Frankie Frizzo. So let's just go. He had the same hair.
Up.
Just go. So we go with a nay.
Okay, nay.
I'll say nay.
So now you're going to have Pillman.
Pillman. Nay.
I say nay.
Well,
I say
okay.
yay.
I say
Pillman
yay.
could
Pillman
have
as
been
Air
good.
Pillman, 89-90. Pillman would have been decent.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Not
The
the loose
wild,
cannon.
crazy,
Yeah.
loose cannon Pillman I didn't like at all because that was not a
know.
horseman material.
I love the loose good.
Okay.
I go yay.
Austin's coming to my house.
Okay,
Got my
so
gun ready.
Go
now
ahead,
you got
say it. You've been dying to say it all episode.
Benoit.
Uh-huh.
I-
No comment.
I say
Benoit.
I say yay.
I'll go yay.
Hey, Mark's not going to say it because he didn't like about what happened.
I'm going to
before.
say, as much as I liked
before
him,
that.
I'm going to say
Yeah.
nay because Benoit couldn't hold himself on the mic. And that's one thing all the horsemen could do. The good horsemen.
Not so much Ole, though.
Ole was good on the mic.
Ole was good on the
brutal,
mic. Ole was good on the mic, but it was in a different fashion.
Yeah.
Flair was Flair.
mic.
Arn Anderson, I don't, to this
but-
day, Arn Anderson and Jake Roberts are like my favorites.
But Arn didn't really
On that
talk,
style.
But
talk
right,
about it.
and Benoit did all of his business in the ring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
And I get that. And that was kind of like Dean Malenko because he's another one that you put
Yes.
on there. Okay?
Yay.
And Dean Malenko, once again, would it be a yay for me had he be able to talk better?
Yeah.
He didn't have a personality. It was ice. They used to call him the Iceman. Yeah, because he's stone faced. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't have anything.
You know who'd have been a good one?
How about
You know-
Mongo? Mongo McMichael.
horrible.
Horrible.
No.
Okay.
Oh, God,
That's
they might as well
hell no.
made fresh off a world title run. David Arquette as a horseman at that point.
How about Jeff Jarrett, who was
No.
flirting for a
Yes.
while?
No.
Yay.
No.
I say Jeff Jarrett. Yeah.
You know who'd have been a good one that we never thought said, but I don't know if we can go, was Guerrero.
I don't agree.
You don't agree?
No.
You don't think he'd
But I
be a
mean-
good horseman?
Guerrero.
Eddie
No,
Guerrero
I don't
as a
think.
horseman?
I don't think the horseman needed a Latino.
What you trying to say? Can I have a black eye either?
Jeez.
Uh-oh.
Trouble over here?
It's about to get real. No.
No, I think no. If you want to go race war with it,
Butch Reed would've been
definitely
a good
Butch
horseman.
Reed. Yeah, I was going to
Yeah,
say
Butch
definitely
Reed,
Butch Reed.
yeah.
I don't think there was any other African American wrestling
didn't
at
say
that
that.
time.
African American. I'm American, motherfucker. Oops. We're American. We're just shaded.
Now you stop your cursing.
Now we're shaded. I never say the
Preseason's
MF. You
in.
know that. Go ahead.
But I don't think there was anybody like Ron Simmons now or
No.
anything like that.
The Rock.
But The Rock.
He was like the ultimate face, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I
Keep going with
Like,
people. Let's go. I'm loving this.
so what we had Benoit. We said Benoit and
Malenko.
Malenko. I
Malenko.
said nay, and I liked them in Revolution.
I say yay to Malenko.
Malenko is on the cusp, but I think he can't
just
verbalize
misses
himself.
He wasn't a
just
verbal.
misses.
You have to remember, Luger didn't talk too much on the mic when he was a horseman, and I say yay for Luger.
Luger
And
was very
Wyndham-
intelligent, though.
Wyndham
Luger's very intelligent.
Wyndham did not talk. If you go back to the
He did.
promos, JJ, he talked a little bit, but he didn't talk a lot.
The problem with Wyndham was he was kind of like that big country mark, you know.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, you throw Malenko in, maybe he's not country, but
you know what? The thing about Wyndham, though, is that he was so naturally talented.
Yeah.
You couldn't deny that. And you could sit there and say, well, what about Malenko and what about Benoit? They weren't naturally talented.
They weren't booked that way, though.
They weren't booked that way. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, it's very good. They weren't booked that way, but they once again, they were branded again.
Mm-hmm. All right, how about this? Upgrade it to Evolution. Orton. Randy.
Orton, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Batista.
Yeah, I could see that.
Batista, no.
No. Because Batista falls in with Sid
Triple
Vicious.
H, yes.
Triple H, yes.
Right.
And honestly, if aside from injuries and stuff like that, I could have dealt with Flair, Anderson, Hennig, and Jarrett.
I'm not a Jarrett fan.
Either am I, but I think he would have fit.
No, you know why? The reason you got two people that look like Ric Flair. Y'all don't get it when
Too
you
many
look
blonde
at
hair.
when you look
Yeah.
at it. You got two people with long hair that look like. And if he shaved his
Hennig,
head,
if anybody was born to be a horseman and wasn't until the very end, it was Hennig. Though Hennig was a horseman,
Could have
man.
been the ringmaster.
I mean, you could sit there and say Ronnie
Or
Garvin in that
Stunning
case.
Steve.
Yeah.
I think Stunning Steve would have been a good one.
I mean, you could say Ronnie Garvin. I mean, serious though.
Yeah.
He could have been the Arn
Well,
Anderson.
if you go back to the Ole Anderson days, yeah, you could have put anybody in there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's
honestly, because a lot of them were smash mouth
Yes.
all the way through.
And as we talked
you
about
could have
in the
put Manny
previous-
Fernandez in that role if you wanted to.
You love Manny
I love. You know what? I love Manny.
I love Manny. Though.
I love Manny Fernandez, but no.
I like Manny. Manny should have done more.
I don't know what you
You
talking
touched
about.
upon this earlier.
Because I heard
in
Mark
another
say
episode.
Michael Sam Houston, but I ain't gonna say nothing, y'all.
But Ronnie Garvin,
Sam Houston.
Ronnie Garvin, baby doll husband, right? If you said it earlier about Ron Garvin in the previous episode about how he was a face who worked a heel style.
Yes.
So I could have definitely seen Ron Garvin as a horseman.
Yeah, I could see that. I could have definitely seen that. But I think the way he worked so well is that because he can work a heel style as a face, that was like no one else was able to beat the Horseman.
If you go nowadays,
He had the Horseman running scared, quote unquote, with his style.
I mean,
I'll tell you who
you're
else.
not gonna like what I say, but Seth Rollins.
I don't like his
Why
voice.
not? He's better than some of the other names you mentioned.
I don't like his voice.
You know what?
His voice kills it.
He's better than
He
Samoa
doesn't
Joe.
have the voice.
He's got his voice like that.
When you keep saying, when I'm saying, I'm talking about when you look at something in the whole.
I'll tell you right now. If
He
I'm
doesn't
gonna
want to look at something in the whole. Like I'm saying, you're looking at it as
super
something
quick.
as a
we're
mark.
running over again, but we're
allowed to. Shut up. You own it. Listen, I'm talking now. Hush. When you look at it as a whole, I'm looking at an image that's something you can mold. That's why I kept saying Samoa Joe. That's what you don't get.
make
But
a
go
four. All
ahead.
right, so
I'm sorry.
we ran through everybody.
Yeah.
We're starting to get into this now. Make a four horseman. Start with Frankie.
You want to go today or you
Let
want
me
to
go today. Well, I want to go
I'll
today.
go
Oh, today?
We're gonna go today.
All right,
Okay.
all right.
Today.
Let's
Make
think
a
about
horseman.
this.
Oh.
And I'm
Alright.
talking, and you need to embody what the Flair, Wyndham, Anderson,
I
and
got it.
Blanchard
Okay.
covered. Okay.
All right. I would put Orton at the top.
Okay.
I would go Baron Corbin as a bodyguard.
As
And
an
I would-
Igor, what did you say?
Baron Corbin? Is that, am I saying his name?
Baron Corbin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll put him in there.
Okay.
I would put, and I would have to put a decent tag team in there. I'm gonna have to put, I would go to some of the New Day. I would put, I can't even get their names right. Xavier Wood,
All right. Xavier Woods.
and
That's Virgil's son. You know that?
I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Virgil's son.
Come on.
And the other
$20.
one,
He'll do the horseman.
no, not
$20.
Kofi. Big A.
Big A.
I
Okay.
don't have it.
That's an odd pairing.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's very odd.
That's like
That's more like
good.
$1 Million Man stuff.
Yeah, it is.
So maybe my answer will be kind of obvious. Bobby Roode, okay?
Yes.
Bobby Roode
Yeah.
has to be the Flair role. I don't know if I could see Sheamus as a horseman because I love the bar, and you need a tag team. So I would say Cesaro, definitely Cesaro.
Okay.
Bobby Roode.
You know, Cesaro was Flair's pick to be a horseman.
But you can sit
If
there.
Flair said I would pick him as a horseman.
You can make a tag
I would
team.
say,
Go ahead.
oh God, if he was still there, Austin Aries would have been a
Okay.
horseman.
Okay.
That's your four, right?
No, he did three.
And Orton in the
And Orton.
Barry Windham role. I
what do you
think
think?
you'd have to center around Rude as
There's a
Flair.
lot of
All right,
people.
I'm gonna go with My Ric Flair is the Miz. He's a very
Yes,
good
yes,
Good
yes.
pick.
I believe so.
I'm gonna go with Orton.
Good pick.
I'm gonna take the offbeat person like Elias Sampson.
Nice. Okay.
Elias.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
Why?
you're asking me my picks. So
I know.
shut up.
I'm asking you why.
He can be both that
Explain
Tully.
yourself.
He could be that Tully type, but he can be an enforcer also.
He said,
Okay.
"Show your
Alright,
work.
and-
Show your work."
My last one.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it, so shut up.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not, because he wouldn't fit
No.
with that group I just
No, I
said.
don't think you said that.
I'm gonna go with. Damn. I'm gonna have to go with Samoa Joe.
Okay. Yeah.
That's gonna be my
you're
real
go
big.
with
That's
that.
gonna be my real big.
Okay.
You know, I mean, Elias is a big dude. You got Miz talking. You got Orton that can do his thing.
Right.
You got Elias who does his little gimmick. Right. Joe don't have to talk. Every now and then I'm gonna kick your ass. You know what I mean? But that's it. But
Now-
you're asking me, that'd be it.
Now I'm gonna go. There's a couple different versions because we have a lot of people that can
You
fall
get
these
one
roles.
version, so just
No, I can't do that.
yes, you can. We had
My
to.
show.
Yeah, we.
You
you
hear? Yeah. You just said earlier.
About an hour ago, you said it's
Our show.
So it's my show. So it's my time.
Jeez.
No, but and what I noticed is that you guys all went WWE. You guys didn't step out of the.
Oh no! I thought that's what we were doing.
That's what we were doing.
Right, I would have gone went Endies.
I said
Yeah.
today.
Oh.
Oh, I
Okay.
stepped out.
Cody.
Okay.
Cody. Bobby Roode.
Yeah.
I like EC3. I do. I like
Yeah.
EC3.
Yeah. Okay.
And AJ cleaned him up. AJ would have been perfect fit.
AJ was great.
He's
in
too, no,
Fortune.
AJ's too country though. His
Really,
voice.
I liked him in Fortune.
I would put Cody and the Horsemen just.
The Horsemen
spite-
are all Southern.
I would put Cody and the Horsemen
country.
just to say, my dad couldn't beat him. I joined.
I would take AJ and have him go against him.
Look, my man, look over here. Jeez.
Now, for me, I was going to say, I like Bobby Roode.
You know what? When y'all said, I'd want with Bobby Roode also.
I like Bobby Roode. I like James Storm, he was like the Arn Anderson for me.
Okay.
Okay. Then I would go tag team wise. I'd go with the Revival.
Of course, yeah.
The Revival were great. They were a throwback to, if you want to call them the Brain Busters or whatever you want to say, but they were great. The other option I had was Eli Drake. Eli Drake, because Eli Drake, you could tell, is really trying to form his verbal style after Flair. You can really tell that if you listen to his interviews. So Eli Drake, Bobby Roode, The Miz, and I like Cody Rhodes. I think that's a good pick as well. So that could work for me. I don't know where Baron Corbin came from.
I don't know where Baron Corbin came from.
That's crazy.
He's hot garbage.
You described another Paul Jones.
That dude is just, yo, something about him, dude. He's
I don't
just,
like him at all.
He's garbage.
I don't like him at all.
Well, you know what? He doesn't fit what they're trying to do with him. How's that?
Yeah, I think they can retool him.
They can retool because I think he's a tool too. But I don't like what they
He
do.
nobody looks like that Mordecai gimmick, kind of, but
It's
dark
something-
instead of light.
Right.
It's
But
something, you know. I would take
They're trying to-
Corbin would have been with Bray Wyatt.
Yeah,
You know.
Right.
Corbin. I think if you would have did a Bray Wyatt 4 faction,
No,
or
I
whatever,
took Bray Wyatt,
yeah.
Corbin, and what's the other one? with The big beard, not the redhead. The other one.
You're talking about the other
Um,
ones. That's with the.
Shameless?
Who?
No. The other
Yeah, Rowan and
Rowan and the other guy.
Okay, I know you're talking about.
I can't. What's his name?
They're the Basham
They're the Basham.
Yeah.
guys now.
Come on, smart Mark.
Give me a second. It's
I can't think of it. See, I went
Rowan
blank.
is the redhead,
Rowan's the redhead.
yeah.
And then
Eric
the other
Rowan
guy.
and
See?
Lucas.
Luke.
Luke.
I can't think. But you,
He's
okay.
on a wrestling show.
If you watch wrestling, you know who we're talking about.
I can't think of this. Luke.
Gallows.
No,
That's
no,
that.
that's
Oh,
Luke
shit.
Gallows. No, we were not saying Luke.
See, y'all
It
got
might
me.
be Luke.
Oh my God.
I think it might not be Luke. But,
No.
Somebody look it up. We got all this Google. Ain't nobody using it.
I'm going right now. I'm busting down right now.
but no, that's my thing. The Horsemen, I think, did not survive past Tully Blanchard. It's funny to say, and I said this earlier, Tully Blanchard was such a key member, you didn't realize it, that when he wasn't there, they couldn't fill his spot.
Right. Exactly.
They really
yeah.
couldn't fill, and the only spot that was able to fill his spot would have been Kurt Hennig, and unfortunately, Kurt Hennig was filling Arn Anderson's spot.
Yeah.
And then we were left with Mongo McMichaels,
who just, you know what, for to me, that was the biggest insult in wrestling.
It was
because
a
he was no
huge
wrestler.
insult.
He sucked.
I would have rather they brought back Paul Roma.
Damn.
You know what I mean?
Mondo McMichael. See, when they started doing that stuff, bringing these guys in that haven't paid their dues, all of a sudden he's a horseman.
Right.
It was just sickening.
And
Maybe because
here's-
nowadays I can say that, but that was.
And
just
here's a
sickening.
little something that you don't realize until you do hindsight. You fast forward to the very end of like WCW, and you had the Kurt Hennig, and when they did that cowboy gimmick with the rap is crap and all that stuff.
Luke Harper. It was
Luke Harper. It was a Luke, right? Yeah. Luke Harper.
Okay,
you
there we
can stop
go.
typing. But the you go back to the end. Tag team champions were Barry Windham and Kurt Hennig. They held the WCW.
Rap is crap.
Rap is crap. And they did what were they?
West Texas Rednecks.
West Texas Rednecks. That were with
Figure
Bobby
Mark.
Duncombe Jr.
Figure Mark will
See,
remember that.
See, I can remember that. I can't remember current.
I got that
Luke
CD in the
Harper.
car too.
West Texas Rednecks.
No, the whole WCW thing, and they had them on it. Yeah.
Because we
The
see,
West Texas
look,
Rednecks.
we see the video, the one you're listening to now.
Yes.
Oh, my
Jason
God.
Michael Carroll.
Yes. Look at that guy. Who the hell is that?
I don't know, but it got "I Love You, Dan" on it. So I'm just telling you.
Canon Entertainment Studios. Thank you. But yeah, but I think it's really, you can say Tully Blanchard was a key role, and I think they lost something with that. I don't think the Horsemen, by the time they booked Hennig, the NWO was such a stupid storyline, and I don't call them a faction.
No,
They're a
Wait a
storyline.
minute. When they
They're
first,
not a faction.
when they first started,
The three of them.
it was phenomenal,
Right.
and that was something great, something that you didn't expect with Hulk Hogan, you know. But when they started doing that whole other, it was just garbage.
Right.
But the NWO
And the whole
was
show was
reminiscent, and we'll
NWO.
get into this, but the NWO, like you're saying, which was the Outsiders and Hogan,
Yeah.
that's an updated version of the Freebirds, when you think about it,
Yeah.
in a sense.
Who are the greatest, you know,
Three-man.
three-man ever?
But no
You
one
know,
expected
we're going to talk about them in another
WCW.
episode.
So
but
we could do a whole episode on the
we're doing
Freebirds.
I'm doing, well, there's just to give you a sneak peek, there's going to be a episode on three-man tag teams
Oh, shit,
coming up.
Crash
I'm just going to tell you. There's a lot now.
Oh, look at that.
Crash.
Crash Crew,
So
Freebirds.
we're moving.
Yeah.
We're moving along with this show.
Frizzo's Mafia.
Frizzo's Mafia. With Crazy Benoit and not an Italian in the group. Not one Italian.
Yo,
in
what
the
was the
group.
ones? I can't remember the name. I know Mark does. When they used to come out on the cutting the grass.
The
Mexican-
Mexicools.
The Mexicools.
Yeah,
Mexicools.
Yeah, that y'all have to admit that was funny. Okay, all right, but go ahead.
Yeah.
I just
That
had to
wasn't
bring that
racist
up.
at all.
At all.
Not even close.
Well, they had the New Day coming out dancing. Well, we're not going to talk about that, but okay.
All right. Well, you know what though? The
Wrap
New
up.
Day dancing. I know you guys say that, but I
They put themselves over.
don't say that to say, oh, that's a black thing.
No.
But to
you're right.
say you got these Latino wrestlers
Wrestlers.
coming
Yeah,
out
but-
on lawnmowers.
Disco Inferno came out dancing too.
No, the reason.
That-
No,
that's-
wait a minute. The reason I say that, Mark, though, because
Yeah, and he wasn't black.
I've been in the business for a long time. A lot of people, that's what they expected from the black guys to come out dancing. I mean, I'm just saying it to say it. There's a lot of great wrestlers that refused.
That's
Like
because they
when-
watched Soul Train.
No, I mean, with Ron Simmons and them, they refused when they did the do all that. This backstories to that, they were like, no. You know, The Rock, no. I mean, it was great. They wanted to do that with a lot of, you know, color wrestlers.
Right.
And the ones that put us to the forefront were like, oh, hell no.
Right. Well,
You know?
and
I remember, oh,
you had
sorry.
Iceman Parsons,
Iceman
who
Parsons.
played the game,
Yes.
and I think you had all those guys that did it. You know, JYD did it in the beginning.
When
Mid-South.
JYD did it,
He
it
made
was,
a
it was
career out of it,
different.
though.
It was
Right. It was.
it was more of a party JYD thing. You know, it wasn't
Oh, he's a face.
happy.
He's
Yeah,
a
it wasn't a
super face.
happy-go-lucky, ha-ha, I
Yeah.
dance for you.
But then,
You know?
and I'm not trying to say, oh yeah, Disco Inferno.
You're not
Okay.
going to equate dancing to three Mexican
and-
wrestlers coming
no,
out on a
we're not.
lawnmower.
It's
not gonna
You're
happen.
not. Yeah.
You're not going to have a mafia
Because they didn't dance
with a
in
Polish
New
guy,
Orleans.
an Irish guy, and a French Canadian guy. Okay, and then talk down to the actual Italian guy that you tried to recruit to say, oh, why don't you want to be in the group?
So
What's that about?
But what he's saying, I want to hear this. But I know we can run out of time. I want to hear what he has to say.
all my point is that you had the Funkadactyl.
I hated that.
Right.
Yeah.
He came out dancing.
Funkasaurus.
Funkasaurus.
But he went from the most dominant
Brodus Clay. Yeah, right.
Brodus Clay
Uh-huh.
Coco Beware.
to oh, I hate him.
We didn't
Shut
dance
up.
as much as he flapped his arms.
No, don't even start me on him. The time he threw the bell
And
over.
did he get blacker?
Coco?
Yeah.
I don't know, but he threw that bell over at the GWA
Like, you know, like Michael Jackson
show?
became a white alien by the time he was passed
Well, you ever
away?
hear the story at the GWA show?
Which one?
He goes out during a cage match.
Sammy Sosa.
Who does this?
Coco Beware.
Right.
You know, the match wasn't going that great, but, you know, whatever. He takes the ring bell, throws it over the top. And I don't know if it was Flex or Kwame that he hit with that. And,
Oh, damn.
Dude, when they say all hell about to break loose, we was in the back. We didn't care, man. He's going about to get plugged up. So, but, yeah, I mean, that whole day, like, I'm going to get off subject. We were talking about the Horsemen, this and that, but it was just something nowadays, like, you have guys who are just fantastic. And I hope they keep pushing forward. If it wasn't for The Rock, a lot of this wouldn't happen.
Of course, yeah.
The Rock was the man.
Well, I think Ron Simmons, too.
Ron Simmons started it.
Mm-hmm.
The Rock took it to a whole different level.
Right.
You know? But
Absolutely.
don't mean to get off subject. Sorry,
Well,
Dan.
no, you know what? To make it real, to bring it back,
Sorry, Dan.
To bring it back, it's like, you
Bring
know,
it back.
it's sad because it's like, I am not prejudiced, I'm not racist. I look at people as people, I look at talent as talent. It's sad that in 2018 we
It's the
still
same
have
thing.
people that.
Well,
you know what?
wrestling was
And I'll
always
say this
considered
real quick, as
the
far as
good
the
old boy
Horsemen
thing.
are concerned,
Yeah.
I
Bless you.
think there, by the time we got to Benoit and Malenko, and we had Anderson and Flair, there was too much of a generation gap.
Yeah,
that
the
it
Horsemen
didn't
weren't
look
cool
right.
anymore.
It didn't look right.
Yeah.
Now, when you had Revolution, which was Shane Douglas, Perry Saturn, Malenko, and Benoit, they're all roughly around the same age.
Yeah, but
It looked right.
that was a playoff of ECW, and they were all former ECW alumni,
Yeah.
so it fit
Right.
in more ways than just the look.
Right, but to see them together like that,
Is he
it made
still alive?
sense. Just like I said with
Perry
Evolution.
Saturn?
Yeah,
Yeah,
doing too
barely.
good.
It's a sin. It's really bad off. But like with Evolution, you saw like Flair and Batista as tag team champions.
Yeah.
It was like being tag team champion with your grandfather.
Triple H.
You know what I mean? That's what it seemed like, you know. But once again, we had another long show today.
So,
The
we're
Horsemen,
down
we
to-
could talk about forever. But I mean, the greatest faction of all time, the Four Horsemen. We got plenty of shows coming up. This is season 3. I want to thank our special guest host, Frankie Frizzo.
Please
for being in the
listen,
house.
get your
Thank
friends
you so
to
much
listen.
for inviting me.
Make sure you go to thatwaycoolwrestlingshow.com. Go on Facebook to That Way Cool Wrestling Show. You can hear us on Google Play Music. You can hear us on Apple Podcasts, Rocket Podcasts, and what was the other one?
I'm a rocket
There's
man.
another one out there. Where we I forget the other one, but it's on there.
on there.
It's on there. You can listen to it. It's great. It's really great to listen to the shows on there. Share it to your friends. Check it out. We got plenty of really cool stuff in line for season 3, including special guests to be on the show, stuff like that. It's all stuff that's being lined up. So stay tuned. Stick around. For Frankie Frizzo, thank you for being on the show with us.
Nice seeing you, Frizz.
Thank you, guys.
My man LeGrand Jackson, who is convalescing at home
Get the shot.
with the flu.
It'll take care
Get
of
that
that.
shot.
Get
We
well
hope to
soon,
hear
my
you
man.
back soon.
It'll take care of that. I'm
Man
telling
Mark
you.
Lindsay and
Take care,
Charles
guys.
Gemini
Go
Gregory. My name is Danny J. Until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Goodbye, everybody.
The proceeding was produced by DJB Productions. Go to www.thatwaycoolwrestlingshow.com.